Hello, good hello. Thanks for watching another random palm reading. Today we're looking at quite a lonesome looking hand. There are some distinctive differences between the left and the right hand, most notably the heart line. As you can see on the left hand here, it reaches all the way across to Jupiter. This shows someone whose love language is very physical, through material, through effort. I suppose the other noticeable difference here is the career line at the end of this person's career. On the right palm, it's a lot more pronounced, a lot more it's deeper, more meaningful. So what do we see here? Well, first of all, this is a very mixed hand indeed. The palm is just about on the square side. The fingers are they're almost long. They're not quite there. They're just on the cusp of being long. There is what appears to be a very large gap between the life and the headline known as the mark of the tiger in Tibetan palmistry. And it's the same on the left hand as well. This is someone who leaps before they think, often at times very impulsive, impatient, and given that the heart line is just so strong and deep, and there's such a strong curve there, and we've seen on the left hand as well, internally, the way they express, um, you know, their emotions, their affections, is not necessarily through sentimental acts or fancy words. This is someone who will physically give everything they have, and being that they have this mark of the tiger, they will at times give without hesitancy. They will give a lot and probably likely materials as well. The other noticeable key and a very profound marking here is the headline. It does appear to overlap at the age of around about 35-ish, at which point it becomes one and the same with the heartline. This person, their emotions are very much tied to their intellectual choices. They are emotionally motivated when they vote. It's because of how they feel, and always people with a combination of a mixture of the heart line mixing into the headline, this sort of simian line or single transverse crease line. You always have someone who's quite intense. They work hard. They can be prone to quite intense feelings as well, like jealousy, and they can be overcome. um, their their feelings are often in conflict with their intellect, and that's because they are, in some sense, one and the same. Now, that's not completely the case with this person. Now, see this little line here that rises up from the lifeline, rising up towards Saturn here. It's got a small island in it as well. It crosses the heart line. This is an indication of arthritis. In the left hand, we see it, which makes it hereditary. The Apollo finger is certainly on the long side. Jupiter doesn't appear all that short. Um, I would say for you know a lady, for a female, this is almost on the short side. But this person certainly cares what they think about them. Mercury, I would not say is short. It's just about long enough, and the headline is indeed long. This is an intelligent person. On the left hand, notice how Mercury appears to be shorter. It doesn't quite reach the first phalanx of Apollo, and in actual fact, I believe Mercury is lower set on the left hand than on the right. And this goes to show that this person has had great difficulty articulating their emotions, their feelings. They're not very good at verbalizing, communicating how they feel. But as this is, it's higher, slightly higher set, or at least Mercury has grown in length potentially on the right hand. This shows how this person has worked through potential, um, early trauma here, an early sort of poor relationship with the father. Now, someone once asked very recently, what is the signs of narcissism in the palms? Well, the sign of narcissism can be seen in several areas, really. Certain areas would sort of back this up. But the heartline mainly, the heartline, if it were short, if it was straight, um, not very sort of strong in its depth of feeling, if it sort of stopped underneath Saturn, then that would sort of show signs of self-concern. Then you'd also see other signs within the Jupiter mount and the Jupiter finger itself as well, lunar as well, I suppose, and Venus would kind of back up these potential narcissistic qualities. Actually, the fate line as well, where the fate line comes from as well, would provide some indication as well. Most of all, the heart line. Now, in this person, we see a very deep heart line, and it rises up towards in between Jupiter and Saturn, the sense of self and the sense of, being an upstanding citizen. We've got someone here who has a good sense of right and wrong. They're guided, in between the two. The arc itself is very strong. And then also, as I've already shown you, you've got someone who, the heart line overall is very long. It reaches right over on the Jupiter itself. This shows someone with very sort of idealistic qualities. So we know we've got someone very strong of heart. Also, we've got a low lying thumb here, and quite a strong thumb. This is, as I say, this is someone who's quite a hard worker. And the low set thumb certainly shows a bit of a humanitarian. So already we've got a very caring, a deep feeling, caring nature. And then also check out the fate line as well. The direction from where this is coming from, just how strong it's feeling here. It's quite an unconscious place. She's obviously her, her feelings about what it is that she should be doing are coming from quite a subconscious area. And these signs really, this is the sign of someone, with a career line coming from this area. They work with and or for people. So we've got here the signs of someone who is quite caring. And to back this up, we've got here these three little lines right here are the sign of the Good Samaritan or the healing stigmata. So overall, we know we're dealing with someone who is giving their all, quite literally. The way they show their affection is through physical effort, through providing with effort, time, and materials. This it could well be in part to compensate for this emotional trauma, this lack of ability to communicate and articulate their emotions. So it could be that whenever this person is hurt, they throw themselves into their work. They are, in some sense, their work is them. Notice how the career line is sort of becomes one with it's hard to know what's the career line and what's the heart line after a time. And this, it certainly is a sign of someone in an industry where they are, caring, supporting, nursing, social workers, someone who really part of who they are is their job role. Their characters is almost a sort of a prerequisite of their job role, which is quite unfortunate. In some ways for this person, their abilities to love are strong, but their ability to communicate affection is often sort of miscommunicated because they sort of bottleneck it. It's all sort of funneled in this um, one sort of love language, if you like. The length of their headline as well as the length of their heart line, both of these being very long, it makes it very difficult for this person to forgive and to forget because this is certainly someone with a very good long-term memory. And you can just about see it on the clarity of this image. The right-hand picture is a bit better than the left. There is a memory loop on both left and right palms. This is someone, as I say, a superb long-term memory. Now, before I get into anything else, you might be wondering the bulbous kind of nature of the tips of the fingers, just at the first sort of knot here. And it's important in palmistry to, first of all, consider some sort of physical impact to the fingers or the palms themselves. Sometimes scarring can, adjust or distort our findings, or arthritis. Now, this person does have arthritis, as I've already pointed out, and we can see that in the palms just here. and this is hereditary, but also this can be a sign of this sort of bulbous nature of the first knots here, the tips of the fingers themselves, of hereditary heart issue as well. For this person, it appears this is both. And I say that because of the island found just underneath Mercury on the heart line here. We also see one here as well, and the formation of one here as well. This is possibly likely due to an unsuccessful union or marriage earlier on in life. And where that can be seen is quite simply on a combination of things, and I'll get to that. And it's at the age of 25 at the same time, or around about that age when we can see this effort in life as well. It's about, well, maybe it's about 26 or so. Now, early life, there were certainly some difficulties, and as I've already mentioned, there are difficulties with a relationship with a father that was potentially unresolved. There was some emotional difficulties here, and there was likely a lack of involvement emotionally during latency, and this has probably affected this person greatly throughout their entire life and had a knock-on effect on their ability to communicate um, and excel, really. Unfortunately, we are a product of our upbringing, in particular from the age of right when we're born, right up to the age of about 4 to 6 crucial years, utterly crucial development years. It is said in psychology that the trauma we receive throughout these years of latency, we are forever repairing throughout our adulthood. And in many ways, this person is doing that by the job role that they are in. Now, there are difficulties seen here by the island here early on in the lifeline, and you can already see at a very early age there's a strong ambition here to rise out of that position. And there is certainly a feeling that this has been achieved. This person is very proud of their accomplishments, and rightly so. Now, if you look very closely, you'll see here a square on the lifeline. Squares on the lifeline, particularly at this age, is almost certainly hospitalization. To be more accurate, it's isolation from society, and this has at the age of around about 13. So it looks like there was some sort of visit to hospital at this time for whatever reason. And interestingly, I can see just over here, notice, here's the Mercury line running upwards here. Now notice there's a sort of striking line here that strikes the Mercury line just here, cuts at it here. Now this is the exact place of where you'd see the appendix on the health line. So I'm thinking this person has had their appendix out, quite certain of that. I'm not certain if it was at this age. This could be something else entirely. But if you look very closely here, here's the square, and there's a rising line that tries to, it's not completely fully formed, it tries to rise upwards here, pointing towards the heart line. Now, whenever this happens, the lifeline sort of attached to the heart line like this, it shows that their sort of life's energies, their physical vitality has been affected by, some sort of health issue. There's almost a sort of striking occurrence here. But as this line is not fully formed, it's obviously nothing that was all that impactful. Now, moving on, you can see here at the age of 25, and I say this because directly underneath, in between Jupiter and Saturn, straight line down on the lifeline is roughly the age of 25. Now you can see this effort line here rising up towards the headline, quite a large space in between the two, but this solidifies the link here. There's a need here to achieve, and it changes this person's mental outlook. There's an effort made, improvements made to this person's life at this time. Now, shortly after this time, notice the heart line here. There's a little line that kind of travels down here and points towards the lifeline. Sometime after this time, a few years later, perhaps sort of 27, and it's showing disappointment here. This is disappointment. The heartline sort of asking the head, asking the life, the environment for support at this time. And it relates to this union here, this attachment line or marriage line, if you like, relationship line. It reaches downwards towards the heartline. It's showing disappointment. It's showing disapproval, upset, hurt, and it crashes into an island on the heartline. This person was deeply hurt by the failure of this relationship, and it appears at about this time another strong effort line rises. Ambitions here, but more. This is more an effort line. It's rising from the lifeline, and just around about the same time that this occurs, there is actually a doubling of the lifeline, and this doubling of the lifeline, it continues and continues and continues, grows stronger as it wraps right around the Venus Mountain. This is actually a very rare sign. And most of the time, when people interpret what is, for them, a double lifeline is actually a Mars line running along inside the lifeline, creating assistance to fight whatever cause it is that they need to. But for this person, it's almost as though they became more introverted when the failure of this relationship occurred, and it drove them to lead a double life of a sorts, and they threw themselves into work. Again, this is another sign that when they are hurt, they heal others in order to sort of heal themselves. Now, underneath the Mercury finger, you can see a family ring. There's a family ring around the thumb as well. And here you can see one child. And that child came from this union. And this is the need to live this double life. And this double life essentially is their work. They are going to work to provide for their child. They will achieve. They will provide a life for their child. Something good from this will happen if I have to give everything I have. That's what's occurring here. And also, you can sort of see, a square forming out of it. Yeah, you can see a square right here, another one here, formed out of this, doubling of the life. Um, and again, this is isolation from society. This person has chosen to go to work flat out, to come home, look after their child, and then to go back to work again. And that's what's essentially is happening here, and it happened for many years. Oh, and then you've got this right here. This is occurring at the age of 35. Now, I've already mentioned there's a sort of an overlapping in the headline. And here you see it again. Look, where the fate line meets the headline is the age of 35. Notice this is not quite an island. It's not quite a triangle either. It's a bit of a sort of slump. It's a bit of a hill to get over here. Certainly progress. It's certainly um, fortunate, but it's not easy. Triangles are always fortunate. They're prosperous. They show great strength of, building the foundations for something greater, something fortunate. But in this case, this is certainly difficult as well. This is a big change here. And yes, also to corroborate this, notice this is quite literally a change line, as I often call them. It's an influence close to the family home, and this is moving home. And I say that because this triangle is not quite a triangle, it's not quite an island. Moving home is good, isn't it? But it's also one of the most stressful things in life. So much like a child appears on the family rings as an island, they're positive overall, of course. We wish to have children. We love our children, but they are hard work, and so too is moving. And moving house changed their mental outlook. And it made work much more difficult. It made home life, there was difficulty here, and there's certainly again, um, from this time onwards, there's a deep sense of sort of isolating, but a lack of social network, probably no real social life for this person. And after this time, pretty plain sailing, really. There are not a lot changes for quite some time. Um, so yeah, here's the triangle again, just on the headline here. And notice how the triangle is much more well formed on the right hand. So this move was in fact, the right move. There could well have been some career change at this time as well. Perhaps quite a lot to go through. If you're moving house, you've got a child, you're a single parent, probably, definitely working full time. It's very difficult. Low down on Luna here, we've got some quite deep lines here, and they're quite indented here. And if we start to see some crossing coming across any of these lines, a little bit like we do here, and that is the Mercury line itself, the sort of barometer of our health. It's a sign here of potential sort of urinary or bowel issues. The kidneys, in particular, with this person, require quite a bit of looking after. And on the lifeline itself, you can see after the age of 66 or so, the lifeline appears to, there's a great strain towards this person's life. It's connected to the health line as well. So there's potential for health issues, but it's likely brought on by the stress of life. There's likely an overburden of needs in their environment. So, as I say, this person gives all that they have. They probably don't know when to stop, and they might not well be, being that their headline isn't attached to tools or the lifeline. The disconnect here in terms of what's best for what's close to their environment. If you see what I mean, they're too close. Decisions around the home life are probably quite difficult to make. Now, I know this person is 67, and looking at the career line, um, there is there are two career lines here. As I said, it's hard to know what's the heart line and what's the career line, but these are, or fate lines, these are two fate lines. Doesn't necessarily mean two jobs, but there's a life purpose here. There's what the person feels it is that they should do with their lives, and then there's this what they're doing that earns them money, and this money might well um, be connected with their life path because of what they decide to do with that money and what that money can do. So it's hard to know actually which one of these lines represents their day job and which one represents what they should, their path, so to speak. But you can see here, there's a little sort of line kind of cuts in down here. Now, being where they are at the age they are now, well, this is around about the age of 53. This is about 60. Here is about 65, 60. This is where they are roughly at the moment. And I believe in a few years' time there will be a bit of an interruption, a bit of interference with managing their work life. I don't think they'll finish work until they're 75. I think that's probably when they'll finish work, and that might be when they just absolutely have to. Throughout the next 8 years for this person, work is going to be tremendously, it's going to be difficult, but they will still persevere. The next 8 years they will be working. That's my thoughts. This person is a little bit more psychic than they perhaps realize. They are almost certainly more intelligent than they realize. Um, they have a superb long-term memory. They need to work on previous emotional traumas because they have a predisposition to edemas, um, uh, fluid retention, which will likely occur in the legs in later life, and this is because of unresolved grief, and this hasn't been dealt with. So I think that's probably what's on the cards with this person. They have dealt with this, emotional trauma in some ways, and that's good. But there's not. There's more work to do, and the more work they do now, the less um, that physical implication will come out later on. Grief affects us all in many ways. Energy can never die, it only transforms. And if we're not dealing with our grief, it will come out, it will manifest. And when it does, it's often not very pretty. This person really needs to work on their self a little bit more. They need to give back to themselves a little bit more, learn uh, how to say no to others, to learn how to stop giving so much of themselves, to build themselves up a little bit, to heal themselves in not just that coping mechanism of giving to others, and to build their social network, to work on a little me time, and in turn, their health, their mental health, and their physical health will certainly improve. So that's my reading for this person. Let me know what your thoughts are. I don't think there's anything more I can say here. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a few things, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.